Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into some really relatable source material from someone dealing with, well, something a lot of us hit, writer's fatigue, that feeling blocked, just no motivation.
Yeah, it's super common, isn't it?
Yeah.
That point where something you usually love doing just feels like such a chore.
Totally.
And the source describes it really vividly, not just tired, but like unusually tired while writing, a kind of stuck feeling in the chest, low energy.
Right, and what's cool about this source is how it explores this, not just as, oh, I'm blocked, but through Stoic philosophy,
Yeah.
and actually using writing itself to understand it.
Exactly. So that's our plan for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Let's unpack what the source discovered. Can we look at these blocks differently? Can writing be the cure for not wanting to write? And, can this help us reconnect with why we're doing it?
And there's this intriguing idea hinted at that maybe this feeling, this fatigue, isn't just surface level. Maybe it connects to something deeper inside, like how aligned you are with your values. Let's get into that.
Okay, so first, let's picture the scene the source describes. This specific fatigue, this stuckness they felt.
Yeah, and they first thought, well, maybe it's the usual things, like maybe I wasn't happy with what I wrote yesterday, or I'm just writing slower than I want to, normal stuff.
Right, but those reasons didn't quite fit the feeling. It felt bigger somehow.
Mm.
And this feeling, this mental and physical block, it made them think of a Stoic idea they often consider. Pain is the gap between expectation and reality.
Okay, right. That's where it gets really interesting. How did they link that specific idea to feeling tired and unmotivated to write?
Well, the thinking went something like this. What if this feeling, the fatigue, the block, is the pain the Stoics talk about?
Not like, ow, physical pain, but
Exactly. More like mental, maybe emotional discomfort.
yeah.
And it comes from a gap between what they expected writing to feel like right then, maybe easy flowing, productive,
Yeah.
and the reality, which was feeling stuck, tired, and just not feeling it.
Ah, I see. So the block itself is the pain signaling that mismatch between expectation and reality. Okay, where did they go from there?
Well, that led them to another key Stoic concept, consistency.
Consistency.
Yeah, the idea that your actions, your beliefs, and your emotions should ideally line up, be consistent.
Okay, and how does consistency connect to the fatigue? What was the question?
The big question sort of popped up. Could this fatigue, this lack of motivation, actually be happening because something's out of line,
Yeah.
a misalignment?
A gap again.
Kind of, yeah. A gap between the action sitting down to write this specific thing and their core reasons, their values for writing in the first place.
That's a really powerful thought, that the feeling isn't just random tiredness, but a signal. And the source was pretty clear on their writing values, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They specifically say they write to learn, to reflect, and to pursue wisdom. Those are the core drivers.
Okay, so if the fatigue might signal a mismatch between the act of writing and those values, what questions did they ask themselves then to kind of check that alignment?
The really fundamental ones, it seems.
Yeah.
Like, why did I even start writing? Big picture.
Mhm.
And then, more immediately, why am I writing this article right now? What's the point of this piece?
And just pausing to ask those, that seems to have sparked something, a realization.
It really did. The source mentions this key insight, realizing that writing, for them, has always been something that primarily serves me, the writer first.
Writing for yourself first, what does that mean exactly? How does it serve the self?
It's about processing things. Taking ideas you learn from books or talks or just life
Right.
and translate them, putting them into your own words.
Yeah.
That act of explaining it, even just to yourself on the page, that reinforces the understanding. It helps you really get it.
It's a tool for thinking then.
Exactly. And thinking of writing as a tool led them to a really practical step for this situation.
Okay.
They remembered this piece of advice. When faced with a problem, write it down.
Write it down. Okay, but what if the problem is the writing? Like you feel stuck with the writing.
That was the interesting part. The idea was turn the problem itself, the stuck feeling, the fatigue, the lack of motivation, turn that into the subject.
So write about being stuck.
Precisely. Write about the block, even when you feel blocked. Just start putting those feelings and thoughts into words.
Okay, and what happened? Did it work?
Well, the source describes it as pretty effective. As they started writing about the struggle, their thoughts actually began to, move again. The problem, which felt kind of big and fuzzy before, started getting clearer just by describing it.
Wow, so the writing process itself started to unblock things, and there was like a double benefit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So first, they were actively using a principle they believed in writing to solve problems.
Yeah.
Felt good.
Right.
And second, the act of writing about the struggle was, well, it was still writing. It was creating something, a piece that maybe could even be published later.
So the problem started finding its solution, and they got something written out of it too. The source said something like, a small gift wrapped inside.
Yeah, and the mood started to lift. It wasn't this dead end anymore.
That makes sense. And this whole experience also made them think about something else they'd written about before, something about repetition.
Yes, it connected back to a point from a previous article about the importance of repeating your core theme out loud. Like if you're using voice to text, constantly saying the main point.
Okay, why did being stuck now suddenly make that advice click?
Well, they realized how easy it is for your mind to drift when you're drafting, especially if you're not feeling super engaged or motivated.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So writing down the problem, the thing that's actually blocking you, or the specific challenge you're trying to work through in the piece, it acts like an anchor. It keeps pulling your focus back when you start to wander off topic.
Using the problem itself to stay focused, that's clever. And did this lead to thinking about making it our regular habit?
It did. The source suggests maybe using the final piece they write each day to actually summarize the experience of writing that day, the process itself.
And the thinking behind that is?
The core idea. Writing about your problem, writing about feeling stuck, is still writing. It counts. It's productive.
It's not wasted time just because you're struggling.
Exactly. It actually helps you figure out what's really bothering you, get to the root of it, and, find a way forward.
And there's a confidence aspect too, right?
Absolutely. Turning that internal mess into actual words on a page. It's tangible proof. The source puts it nicely. It's proof that even when I'm stuck, I can still write something. Seeing that evidence helps build confidence for next time.
Okay, so even if you're writing about the struggle, the source still emphasizes sticking to a core principle for any writing.
Yes, that whatever you end up writing, it needs to stay anchored to its central theme. You can write about the block, but connect it back to the larger point you were trying to make, or make the block itself the theme.
Right. Don't just ramble aimlessly.
Exactly. And this connects to a bigger idea they have about writing, viewing it as more than just putting words down, seeing it as a form of virtue training.
Virtue training. Interesting. Which virtue are they talking about here?
Specifically, wisdom.
Okay, how does writing train wisdom, according to this source?
Well, they describe the process like this. You take a concept you've learned, something you want to really understand. You expand on it in an article, and you explain it using your own words, your own logic. That whole act of articulating, structuring, reasoning it out, that's the training. That's how you cultivate wisdom through the practice.
That really reframes the whole point of writing, doesn't it?
It does. And it loops right back to the purpose they rediscovered during this whole process.
It is.
Reiterated really clearly at the end. The ultimate point is writing for the self, to record what you're learning, to understand it better yourself.
And they're also very clear about what it's not about, for them at least.
Oh, yeah. Explicitly not about just churning out essays for an audience or chasing whatever topic is hot right now or, just making things sound fancy with clever words.
The commitment is really strong. I must never forget that purpose.
And there's a guaranteed payoff, isn't there? Even if the original problem, the stuck feeling, isn't instantly solved, or if no one ever reads the piece.
Right. You always get the article itself, the thing you wrote.
But also, crucially, and an honest internal discussion. That process of thinking it through, that self-reflection and clarity you gain, that's the guaranteed benefit.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. We've seen how creative blocks, that fatigue, might actually be a deeper signal, maybe pointing to a misalignment with your core values, drawing on some Stoic ideas there.
Yeah, and how powerful it can be to use the very act of writing about the block as a tool to work through it.
And the importance of remembering why you're doing it in the first place often. It's primarily for you, for your own learning and understanding.
Plus that interesting perspective of viewing the whole process not just as creation, but as practice for developing a virtue, such as wisdom.
These are really useful insights, not just for writers, I think, if you're feeling stuck on any project or problem.
Right, in any area.
Asking yourself, why am I really doing this? And then maybe trying to articulate the struggle itself, describe the problem you're facing, could be a way to find some clarity and maybe find a path forward.
It gets it out of your head and onto the metaphorical page, whatever that looks like for you.
Definitely. And the final thought we'll leave you with from the source is this. whatever the outcome, whether people see it, whether it perfectly solves the problem. The very act of engaging, of writing